All right. My name is Shay Melach,
I'm Paul McCarthy.
and welcome to the I Am Impact podcast, episode number 5, I think. And today we're going to start off the discussion by talking about the most recent blog post on I Am Impact. The most recent blog post on I Am Impact is called "Why Popular Blogs Are Popular and How I Might Follow Suit." And within about 24 hours, it had over 100 comments. It currently has 116 comments, which makes it the second most commented on post on the site. Although I have to also say, like, about half of those comments are for me because I replied to almost everyone. But still, I usually reply to a lot of people, so it's still like one of the most commented posts we've ever had. And well, that's quite interesting for a few reasons. I think the first thing we should talk about is the fact that when did I make this video, by the way? Was that did I make it on Sunday or
Tuesday, wasn't it?
Tuesday? Okay. So, oh yeah, it was Tuesday, that's right. So the first thing I think we should talk about is the fact that on Tuesday we had discussed this kind of topic before, and I had decided to make a video. On Tuesday I sat down, I recorded the video. I did the I'm not how do you say that? I basically did all the scenes I wanted to do for the video, or it takes me more than one take often, or I'm not the kind of guy who sits down in front of a camera and just goes for 5 minutes with perfect sentences and whatnot, and then it's done. So I sometimes have to pause and think and so on. But I did all the takes I wanted to do and thought, okay, that's the finished video. And then we kind of had a quick chat about it and I decided to reshoot and do the whole thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty crucial, because I think if we hadn't done that, if we posted the first thing I recorded, we would have not gotten this kind of response.
I can't remember what it was. What was it that made us decide that we need to do it again?
It was something about, well, it wasn't like a huge difference. It's not like I shot 2 completely different videos.
It was the question that you asked, I think. The question in the second one you had two questions, and in the first one you missed out one of the questions, and I can't remember what it was. And we thought the main point was missed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was mainly about the question and maybe a bit about the phrasing, and I think that made a big difference. But I can't remember. I honestly can't remember what the phrasing of the question was the first time around. But anyway, I think that's the reason I brought this up. The reason I think this is relevant and important is that I think it's interesting to know that and it's often a process like that. We made this recording, and then we had to think about, wait a minute, what's this like from the perspective of the people who will be watching this video? What's this like for them? Is this the right message for them? And thought, no, this can be improved, and we tweaked the message. And it's just something I like to mention, these kinds of things, because I know that from the outside it often seems like everything is like perfect and polished, right? Because only the good stuff gets published. And when it seems from the outside, like I'm the kind of guy who sits down in front of the camera, does one smooth take, posts it to the blog, gets 116 comments, awesome. But it's not really like that. It's there's often a bit more involved.
I think a lot of people think that about your videos in general, because they are very polished. When you do slideshows, presentations and stuff like that, there's no mistakes in there. But of course, you always edit those videos, don't you? I don't think we ever really shoot a video where we can just do it in one take and that's it, just smash it out. We always have to edit it, so it looks professional. But it might seem to those people who are watching it that we can just spill these things off straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, practically no one can do that, because what you usually see is one of 2 things. It's either someone who's shot a video and done editing to make it, to streamline it essentially, or it's someone reading off a script. So, you know, if you watch like the news channel or whatever, yeah, they do everything live in one take essentially, but they're reading off a teleprompter and someone wrote that. So in general, nobody I know can just sit down in front of a camera and just be perfect like that. It doesn't work like that.
Like the closest I've seen is Chris Farrell. But I think some of his stuff is scripted, but also I think sometimes he just does sit down in front of the camera and he just. But his history is that he used to work, from what I understand, in radio. So that's probably quite a good. You know, he's obviously very skilled in that area from working in radio.
Yeah, yeah. And there as well, I mean, the thing is, you don't know if he has a script.
No.
He might even have a teleprompter or something like that. You don't really know, because that's the thing, right? If it's done well, you can't tell.
I think the only reason that I say that I don't think he does most of the time is because I've seen him in Q&As where the questions haven't been scripted, and people have asked him questions. He's just come back and it's just been so polished. He's so good at that.
Right. Well, that's definitely a cool skill to have.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to that post. So after a bit of refinement, we posted this video, and yeah, we got a very interesting result. We got a good response. Now, as a quick summary, basically what I say in the video is if I look at IM Impact and I compare it to some of the most popular blogs in the niche, there are a few missing elements. And some of those elements are that there's probably not enough emotional engagement going on IM Impact, because I'm not a very emotional person, and I guess that shows. My thing is always to be like straight to the point, right? And that can be an issue. And another thing is that there's a certain lack of proof, I guess, when it comes to, you know, does this guy really know what he's talking about? So if someone lands on my site, there's a certain issue with, because I've never like published my numbers. I don't talk about my income. I don't do income reports and so on. So how can you know before you actually go into my content whether I'm just another guy who decided to start an internet marketing blog, or whether I actually know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, the reason this came about is because you've clearly got a loyal following, and that's obviously been very clear from this video. But these people, I don't know the average stick around rate that these people have been on your site or reading your content for, but they definitely have been exposed to you time and time again, and they've come to appreciate you because you put out great content. So the reason I thought it might be an interesting idea just to see the bounce rates and just whether our opt-ins go up from the blog is the new people that come in who haven't been exposed to you before. When I'm on an internet site at the moment for internet marketing, and I read some guy's content, the first thing, especially because the industry is so scammy, the first thing is literally, okay, I'm reading this guy's content, but does he actually know what he's talking about? Where's the proof? I mean, what's his about page like? And I want to see that he's got some qualities, because I certainly am not gonna, like you said in your video, I'm not gonna sit around, read his entire blog, and then make a decision about that, because I'm busy. We're all busy, aren't we? That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the thing that was slightly, because the overwhelming response from the video that you put out, the question was, keep doing what you're doing. I don't need any proof because I pretty much know that you know what you're talking about, which is great because those are your loyal fans.
Yeah.
But I'm almost feel like we've asked a subset of people who know you already, rather than the people that we're actually trying to figure out what they think when they come and see your content, because you get a lot of traffic on that blog. But I feel that, for one thing, there's no proof anywhere. On the About Us page is very kind of logical, it's a story, but there's no kind of I'm a baller. There's no Ferraris or anything like that, but that wouldn't be you anyway. But you know what I mean, there's no kind of like, I started off, didn't know anything, did my 6-figure product launch, whatever, anything like that. Just nothing. Yeah. And I think I would come, I'd see your content, I'd say it's good, but I'd be off.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I think that's a good point. But we did essentially ask the wrong people, right? Ideally, you want to ask the people who leave the site, but they leave the site, so they're difficult to ask. So, so we kind of asked the wrong people, but it's also, I think the question was basically misunderstood, because the question was, look, I want to add some kind of proof. I want to make sure that people who come in understand that I'm not just making stuff up as I go along. But I don't want to do, I mean, that's explicitly in the video. I don't want to do what most people do, which is go on about, do the income proof or the worst, I mean, of course, the worst kind of thing is the rich jerk thing, right? If anyone remembers that. Or we kind of pull up in a Ferrari to show off what a baller you are, right?
Yeah, with the hot chicks.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not good. I couldn't possibly do that with a straight face. Anyway, so the idea was never like, okay, I'm completely going to change the style of I Am Impact and turning this into a guru blog or something like that. The question was like, what's an elegant way of doing that without being a douchebag, essentially? Yeah. And I think that was kind of a little bit lost, or the response. If you look at all the responses, the way I see it, there's a lot of people who say, no, I like that, I like that it's serious, I like that it's sober, I like that it's straight to the point, don't change. If you strip all that out, and I appreciate that feedback, obviously, it's fantastic, I'm very grateful for that, but if you kind of say, okay, that's one answer I got, now let's remove all that and look at what's left in the comments. Now you've got a lot of comments of people saying, yeah, we would like to see that more practical, because one thing about numbers is that it does make things more practical. So what a lot of people are saying, yes, show us numbers, yes, show us results, but only if it's relevant. So again, it's not pulling up in a Ferrari, but it is maybe saying, look, here's a case study. I did such and such, I got the traffic from there, and I got, 5,000 people on a mailing list. Right? That is, and it's also a form of showing proof, but it's relevant.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the kind of thing that we had in mind when we decided that you should create this video. But yeah, I think a few people started the alarm bell started going. Think you're gonna get the old Lamborghini out, hire a few hot chicks.
Yeah, and so and we definitely need to talk about. Let me see. Well, let's talk about emotional appeal first. Yeah. Because that's one thing that I really do think needs fixing, and which will be, I think, fairly difficult for me to do. But it's something you pointed out as well, where, I said before, I'm not a terribly emotional person, and let's exaggerate a bit. I'm a bit of a robot sometimes, okay? But it's true that, as you told me, even I can't deny that my mood and my emotional state affects my productivity and affects my business, and that's true. And I think the fact that it's even true for me, even though, as I said, I can be a bit of a robot, means it's probably even more true and even more relevant for most people.
Yeah, and I to take that bit further, I think it's really important to find a balance between giving people what they need to know to do something, and actually giving them what they need to hear to actually take that action. Yeah. And one is like an emotional thing, and one is a strategy, tactical thing, and the combination of those two, I think, is very powerful. I think you're excellent at the second part, because you have these pillar posts, for instance, the video guide. Yeah. Pretty much the best post on the web about just if you want to get started with video. But there's nothing in there that would emotionally charge people up to actually get motivated to make their first video, because they're going to be coming in if they just start a video. You're great at marketing. If you were to make a sales page, that the concerns they'll be having if they're just starting videos. And if you just kind of dealt with those at the start of the post, or dealt with those worries and those fears about getting your first video out there, or it's too technical, or they don't know anything about codecs, and just say, listen, this is where it's at, and actually deal with those emotions, maybe you'd get a better response. Maybe if you treated it a bit more like a sales page, but not without the offer, just the problem part, where you acknowledge what they're going through, so that they're reading this and they got all the strategies and all the tactics, but they also like, oh, this guy gets it.
Yeah, and I think and I think really that's also, to me, that also has a lot of appeal, because the reason my stuff is straight to the point is because I want to be as effective as possible, and the goal is to convey information. I want to do that as effectively as possible. But here's the thing: I enjoy reading popular fiction books. No, not popular fiction. Popular science books is what I mean. I enjoy reading popular science books a lot more than I enjoy reading research papers.
Mm-hmm.
It's more effective for me to learn stuff by reading popular science books, which are easy to read, entertaining to read. People like Malcolm Gladwell, for example.
That's a bloody good point, actually. Yeah.
So it's actually a more effective learning process than trudging through research papers.
Right. Yeah. That's great. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, that's a great point.
And I think that's really important. That's for example, it's one of the reasons why my style is generally very informal. Because, for example, I hate, this is something I hated about academia, if I can say it like that. I dropped out of university, for those who don't know. And one of the reasons was I was just so fed up with people writing content, writing their books or whatever it was, in such a way that you feel that they constantly try to demonstrate how intelligent they are by using big words.
Yeah.
And it's pointless. It is pointless. You're not helping anyone. And in some cases it's like moderate, and that's fine. And you use insider terminology, that's fine. But in some cases it's just, you can just picture someone sitting down and thinking, how can I make this sentence sound as complicated as possible? Because otherwise I won't get an A.
Yeah. And
that is just bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've always avoided in my own content. I don't want to use big words. I don't want to make an effort to seem smart. That is not the goal. I want to make an effort to be effective in my teaching, and the best way to do that is usually to keep saying things, simple and easy to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I distinctly remember going for a number of bloody research papers at university and thinking it might as well be in Russian.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. The worst is I saw some stuff that was about basically in the field of art. If you look at some of the books that people have to read who study art,
mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, because of course if you say I study art or I'm an artist, nobody takes you seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to compensate by making their stuff just ultra complicated. And essentially they're talking about pictures.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I hate that kind of thing. So, from that standpoint, I have to say that is one of the reasons why I do have the goal to add more emotional appeal,
mm-hmm.
or you could also say add better storytelling
mm-hmm.
to the content I create, because it helps. It actually helps in the learning process. If I can do that, if I can write things more like, let's say, Malcolm Gladwell, then I'm more effective at teaching you whatever it is you need to learn.
And the challenge is getting that balance, so that people don't feel like you're fluffing out. You're giving them exactly what they need, but at the same time, they can't wait to see that next post in their RSS reader.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. It's not exactly easy to do, is it?
No. I agree. But the other thing that's quite interesting about the post that you did is, and we discussed about this, and we're saying that a lot of people will say that they want just tactics and want just the logical side of things. Everyone's an emotional being, but I don't think many people want to admit to being influenced by their emotions. I think most people like to have justifications for things which are purely logical, where actually they may have been driven by emotions. So that's the other thing where maybe we're getting some slightly skewed feedback here, because nobody wants to admit that they need the emotive side of your content.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just as a completely unrelated side note, I want to say that advertising doesn't work on me. That's completely unrelated. Anyway, That's completely true. I mean, that's another thing. Whenever you ask people questions or do surveys or whatever, one of the tricky things about that is that human beings are notoriously bad at self-reporting. Right? If you want to know what someone really needs or wants or feels like, don't ask them. Basically, we're usually really bad at giving information about what it is, especially when it comes to marketing things. You know, what made you, what led to the buying decision? You will never get a straight answer. We usually don't even know ourselves, and even if we did know, we probably don't want to be honest about it. So that's a very good point as well. But yeah, in some cases, and I think in some cases we just don't realize. We just don't realize, and I think with the emotional appeal, it is one of those things where you think about that. Do I appreciate a post with emotional appeal? And you say no, that just gets in the way. But ultimately, you don't even realize if it's done well. You don't look at the post and think, oh, this is appealing to my emotions. You just read the post and think, wow, this is amazing.
And I wonder, just throwing this out there, I wonder how much better your response has been, because we recorded it, then I was just about to go to bed, and all of a sudden I heard, I've got a great idea. So I got out of bed again, or go out of the bathroom, because I think I was brushing my teeth, and he goes, throw some money on me. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, get the camera back on. Like, have you got nuts? That was a stroke of genius. I really like that. I wonder how much better your response has been because of that.
Oh, massive. So one thing, if you go into our Wistia account and you look at the stats for that video,
yeah,
that part, you have like a graph for. I should have prepared this and showed this on screen, but never mind.
Really?
You have a graph for basically the engagement of the video, where you see when people are dropping off. And then you see which portions of the video are being rewatched. It's just a huge bump at the end because everybody rewatches the money throwing part.
Yeah, and some of the feedback has been, I really like that. Do that more often.
Yeah,
that's a challenge. That is a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay. So here's the thing. We did that because it was just a silly idea, and we're like, and it was late. We're like, yeah, let's put that in the video. And of course, I also think I really wonder how the video would have done without that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we'd gotten like 20 replies or comments without that. Because it's exactly that. It's somehow, I don't even know why exactly, but somehow that's like a trigger, and it just engages you, and it brings out a human side and so on. And definitely, it's definitely something I want to do more of, but of course you can't force that.
Yeah. And you can't just cash at the camera every bloody video over.
No, it's probably going to get old pretty quick.
Yeah, that is going to be a challenge. But it's a good point, though. Just on camera, there's a certain persona that you bring across. And I live with you, so I see a completely... I mean, that is quite an accurate description of your character. You are quite serious, you're quite logical, and you like things in order. But you've also got a wicked sense of humour. And there's not much of that going into the site.
No, not at all. No, but that's, again, I think that's just with I kind of filter that out because I feel like, if I'm joking around and wasting people's time, right? Yeah, exactly. But as you say, ultimately there has to be some kind of a balance there.
Yeah, I feel like people should want to read your content because they're excited about it, as well as getting the information they need.
That would be really awesome. I mean, that's, I hope to get there, because right now I think what's really happening is that you have to have, especially if you just follow the blog. If you're not subscribed and you don't watch the Sunday videos and so on, if you just follow the blog, you have to be serious about this stuff, because a lot of especially, I mean, lately we've put out a lot of like really meaty content, big posts about stuff like details about analytics that nobody ever talks about, and it's important, but you have to be serious about this stuff to keep up with that.
The good side of it, though, is that we have a real smart audience.
Yeah,
that's the great thing. Pretty much everybody who commented is, you can tell, they're much higher than the norm They're certainly more advanced than a lot of the beginner internet marketers out there.
Yeah.
You know, they've got that. I think you do a great job of filtering out the pretenders and the get rich quick seekers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really grateful. But I mean, every time I ask a question, and where people can answer in the comments, or I do a survey or whatever, I always think, holy shit, these people are smart.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I usually get feedback that really, and there's some really long posts as well in the comments where people take this stuff apart, analyze it, and make awesome suggestions. I just think that is amazing. That's amazing to get that. And I'd much rather have 50 comments like that than 200 comments saying thanks for the post.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's finding that balance of still finding that right audience.
So another thing that fits into here is, well, we've talked a bit about our conclusions from this whole survey or from these comments and so on. And I think the thing is that we're not going to change much. We're certainly not going to change the style, because even when I say I want to add emotional appeal, I want to, just like with numbers or proof or whatever, I want it to keep it relevant, because what I can see myself doing is like fluff posts where all I do is try and motivate people or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to mix it in with the stuff I'm talking about anyway. That's really the goal, so that nothing of the content, nothing of the the analytical content and all the stuff you like about IM Impact Go is lost.
Literally, sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead.
I mean, literally, the posts could be very, very similar. One could have some great emotional appeal, and one could have little emotional appeal, and there'd only be a couple of sentences between them. For instance, when you talk about launching a product, you can write how to launch a product, which is one post, in the normal style that we do, which is basically just straight up, this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the new modified emotional edition, we can have, well, I remember that I felt this when I wanted to create my first product, but I overcame it with this, and in the end we managed to do this in terms of the money that you made from your first product launch, so it came good in the end. So just so that they read it through and I can relate to those emotions. That's it. That is a very subtle difference, and there's a bit of proof in there that you know what you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. And it doesn't necessarily change the entire, it adds maybe 2 paragraphs or something, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's so certainly there's no danger of that changing. What we have to think about is especially like a stream of new visitors, people who aren't returning visitors. Where can we appeal to them better? And certainly, if you look at IM Impact, the homepage is okay, but it's not great, because the homepage is too much. It's too much about me and the site, and too little about them, the visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And the about page would be very important. Now, my about page currently is terrible. That needs fixing. So the homepage and the about page are 2 places where I think we can make a big difference for new visitors without existing visitors even noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I mean, something that has been bugging me for a long time is my opt-in incentive.
Yeah.
And the reason, look, one of the reasons why that's been bugging me, the same reason why it's bugging me that even that the site isn't loading as quickly as I'd like it to. And one of the reasons things like this bug me is that I want IM Impact to be like a role model for a website. I want people to, if you think, what's the best way of doing that on a website? I want you to be able to just come over to IM Impact, check how we've done it, and know this is the right way to do it. And that's currently not the case with the About page, for example, and it's definitely not the case with the opt-in incentive.
Mm-mm.
And the reason for that, I want to quickly explain why that is. The opt-in incentives I have there are pretty terrible. And the reason is that the freebie products I've never made them thinking what would make a good opt-in incentive. I've always made them thinking, what do I want to teach? And so, for example, the Keyword Research Guide, probably the most popular freebie I have, I created that because I was looking around thinking, holy crap, almost everything people say about keyword research is wrong. Someone needs to correct that. Someone needs to fix that. And that's why I made this guide. And it's not, it's not very appealing. Learn about keyword research. Who cares? It's not exciting. It's important, but it's not exciting. And most of my freebies are like that. And this is also something where I think I could insert one thing we talked about that has potential. I could simply talk about my first product creation and launch, which is still my second most popular product I ever made. And which where I got really good results and got them for very specific reasons. So if I made a report about how I sold 2,100 something copies of my first product that I made in 6 weeks, that's like that would be a decent blurb probably. That would probably be a lot more attractive as an opt-in incentive. And it would also be something that as a returning visitor, you basically start ignoring the sidebar opt-in box and the post footer opt-in box because you see the same thing every time. But as a new visitor that catches your eye and you go, oh, and you get maybe an element of proof and you get something that's really interesting and gives us more of a chance of reeling new visitors in.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we're all about now trying to improve our conversion rate, and I just feel like in this industry there's very limited. There's so many people talking about, there's so many people making noise in internet marketing. And they've all got the same kind of sites, and they're all not making money apart from the top maybe 2%, right?
Yeah.
So when you can differentiate yourself with actual proof and your content speaks for itself, I think that makes a difference. But the interesting thing, what you said about the opt-in box, is that soon we'll be able to quantify that once we get the split testing feature out in hybrid. We can actually split test that thing. It might be quite interesting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I think, and as I said before, my goal is also that you can kind of look at the opt-in boxes I have on the site and look at them as an example of how to do it right. Because right now they're really not. Please don't copy that. They look nice, but in terms of the message and in terms of what's the offer, which is the most important element there is, it's just not good.
There's a lot of work we need to do. I mean, there's no real social media presence either that we know we should be doing. We know we should be doing that. It's frustrating because we just got so much product work to be doing that we should kind of neglect it, which is a bit silly, really.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, I think we've talked about this earlier on, and the clear conclusion that what we both know is what we need to do is we need to scale up to a larger team, right? Because there's simply too much. I mean, there was far too much work for one person to do, which is why you came along, and there's still far too much work for two people to do. And it's like we know what needs to be done. We know that we need more people. We know that if we had, I mean, basically we could probably just kind of jump in cold and hope for the best. It would probably work out if we just said, okay, we're going to employ 2 people now, and just hope that they pay for themselves before we run out of money. Basically, it will probably work out, but I'm not the type to take that kind of risk.
No.
But we know that that's where we need to get, right?
And you want an entourage, ultimately. Entourage that travels around the globe. Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. It's very unlikely, but it would be pretty cool if you pull that off.
You say that. I mean, Mark Manson at postmasculine.com, he's taken on somebody, hasn't he, as like an intern, he's called it. And he was interviewing a guy on his blog the other day, and he runs an internet business as well, and he took an intern, and the guy traveled out to him in the Philippines, I think it was. I can't remember where, but it's kind of shifting towards that way. You can see more and more people. I mean, we're definitely ahead of the curve on that one, because I don't think a lot of people are in this lucky position of being able to offer that kind of intern role. But I think it's going to head more and more that way, and maybe we'll be able to put out an offer at some point. But it's very risky, like you say. So while we're here in Romania, we should possibly think about recruiting someone locally on a contractual basis, because the salaries are low, and there's a big university here. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, the details, we're not sure about the details of how we're going to do that, but we're sure that we need more manpower, basically.
Yeah, and at the moment we're just kind of grinding on. Yeah,
as usual. But I think it's going okay right now.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, isn't it, when there's just so many things. I look at the blog and I think, God damn it, I know exactly what I need to do to get a
Yeah,
social media presence on that, and I know what competition we could run and how we can make it viral and stuff like that, and we throw ideas backwards and forwards. I mean, in one day we can craft out 6 months worth of work for ourselves.
exactly. Yeah, but that's the same thing with every entrepreneur I talk to, and I think we should probably wrap it up
Yeah.
sometime right now. But in closing, let me say, that's the same thing with pretty much every entrepreneur I talk to, is that everybody has, you get to a point where the potential for what you could possibly do just outgrows your reach. In the sense that, it takes a certain time before you figure out the basics of everything, but you get to a point where there are 100 things I could do. I mean, literally, I could drop everything I'm doing now and start a completely different business. And if I go through my notes, I'm sure I have notes for at least 5 new businesses I could start. And I could do that. I could make that happen. It's just that, as I said, I'd have to drop everything else because there are only 24 hours in a day. And on a good day, I can maybe concentrate and work for 12 of those. And that's it.
Yeah. And yeah. That's it. I mean, the funny thing you mentioned to me the other day is something like on VWorker, they say the estimate is you take however long you think or the developer thinks it will take to do your project and times that by 3.5.
Yeah.
That is flipping accurate.
Yeah, it is, right? It usually works out like that. Yeah, you think, oh yeah, we can do that. It's no problem. Or, I'm almost finished with this product, but no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah, man, hybrid. That was a small little plugin.
I know.
How many months ago?
Dude, years ago. What are you talking about? Months. Hybrid is about the idea. Hybrid. The first start of developing hybrid is about 2 years old.
Yeah. And now it's turning.
But we're
into
getting
a damn
better.
monster.
We're getting better at this.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, we will wrap it up in a second. But the one thing that we've kind of figured out over the last year or so is that there's no point spreading yourself too thinly.
Yeah.
You're much better off focusing on one thing and just getting it out there, because we're in a bit of a position now where we're a bit spread out. So we're having to catch up, aren't we? One by one, just catch up on all the stuff that we set out to do.
Yeah, that's the worst. I think by now, I hope everybody knows that multitasking doesn't work, right? You can't multitask. You can't actually do several things at the same time. But it's also true for multi-projecting. Even if you only work on one thing at once, it diffuses your concentration so much and it diffuses your efforts so much if you work on 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 different things. It's the worst thing you can do. And seriously, for productivity, I've said this before, the most important skill you can have for productivity is single tasking.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So that was another fascinating and amazing episode of I Am Impact. Why are we so serious on these podcasts? What happened? On the Step podcast, they were constantly laughing. Maybe we didn't have anything intelligent to say.
Yeah, I was more into porn back then as well, I think. Wow, those are epic episodes, though.
I know.
My dog showed up and threw up all over me
I know.
while we were recording. So that brought an abrupt end to that podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to get some of the Step spirit back.
Seriously though, I mean, when we were doing Step, there was a guru launch every 5 minutes, and we were just rinsing them 24/7, weren't we? That was the thing. There was just so much crap going on in the industry. It was so easy just to have a laugh. I mean,
that's true.
One video, some guy was in a jet or something trying to sell you his mate money on. I mean, what the? Anyway, don't get me started.
That's true. Yeah. Well, anyway, maybe we need to find a silly sales video to get in the mood. Yeah. But all right. So with that, I think we can end today's episode as usual. Well, we don't really have a sign off, do we? Thanks for watching. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and on the blog, and subscribe to the newsletter and give us money.
Won't get anything back.
I'm just trying to combine all the calls to action.
Preferably recurring. We're easy.
Yeah. We'll take one-time donations as well.
We do performances as well. We can sing at weddings.
Yeah, that's desperate times. All right, that's it.
Ciao.
And talk to you soon.